In this video, I'm going to talk about The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie, released on June 16th, 1972, celebrating its 50th anniversary. The album is one of the most influential albums in the proto-punk and glam metal genres. It was produced by Ken Scott and David Bowie and released on RCA Records. When I was growing up, I knew about David Bowie, but I was never a big fan. He was very popular in the 80s, especially with like that Let's Dance album. Back then, I didn't know he had been making music from like back when the Beatles were still around, you know, like the late 60s. I only knew of him as like an 80s and new wave artist. I later discovered his older stuff when I heard a cover of Space Oddity by the band Saigon Kick. That was in the mid-90s. And that was still one of my favorite, and that it still is actually one of my favorite David Bowie songs. Now I'm more aware of his history and contributions to the music world, so let's talk about the album, The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. So this album is more or less a concept album. It's about like a bisexual alien rock star named Ziggy Stardust. And this has been considered to be like a rock opera by some, you know, and in my personal opinion, it actually reminds me a lot of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show that would actually come out like a few years later. But I would assume that that movie and soundtrack did draw inspiration from this album. So the style is glam rock and proto-punk, but there are like a lot of different styles going on here. So David Bowie was actually influenced by Iggy Pop, and he's considered to be the forefather of punk rock, and he played with the Stooges in the late 60s. But they do lots of other styles as well. They do blues, garage rock, soul, stadium rock, pop, jazz, a little bit of like proto-heavy metal, but I'll talk about all those styles as I go through the songs. The album cover looks like a painting, but it was a photograph taken by photographer Brian Ward in monochrome. It was later colored by an illustrator named Terry Pastor. And it's also one of the few Bowie album covers where, you know, he is like more in the background and it's not really a close-up of his face. So it's a very unique cover. The album has 11 songs. It's about 38 minutes long, so let me talk about those. So the first song is called 5 Years. It introduces the story about how the Earth only has 5 years left and how people reacted to it. This is kind of a song that I guess you could say didn't age well because there are like some like racial and like homophobic like slurs in the song. The song is like a light acoustic song with like a theatrical sound. The main rhythm is piano driven. It's a very good song. It has a nice rhythm. The vocals are very good. The orchestration is also very melodic, and it starts off the album very well. Soul Love is a song that kind of sounds right out of the 60s. It's a rock song. It reminds me of like the Beatles with like a soft rock beat, and it incorporates some electronic or electric rock guitars right before Bowie introduces his theatrical vocals during the chorus. This kind of goes into a smooth saxophone solo, giving the song a lot of, so excuse the pun here, but a lot of soul. Moonage Daydream is a very recognizable song since it was on the first Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack. It's classic rock with some heavy distorted power chords, making it one of the heavier songs on the album. But the song has more of theatrical tendencies in the sound, with Bowie using more of like a powerful vocal delivery. The song has some nice melodies played on some wind instruments. And the best part of the song is the guitar solo with the echo effects and the spacey rhythms, and this fits very well in the song. Starman is also a very popular song. It's an acoustic-driven rock song that's very memorable. You know, the piano leads up to the chorus. The song has some orchestration, but the vocals are the main factor in making the song really great. The guitar riffs are very memorable in the song, and probably one of his most iconic songs, and I think they actually used this in that new like Buzz Lightyear movie from Disney and Pixar. It Ain't Easy is a song that's a little different, driven by an electric piano, and Bowie uses like some higher range vocals on this one. And this song is more of like a gospel or like a rhythm and blues sound, but you know, David Bowie, he's kind of like a chameleon. He can perform in any genre he wants, so really nice change of pace. Reminded me a little of like Led Zeppelin at times, kind of like that like old like blues style. It's a good song if you like something different than like a typical, you know, classic rock sound found on the albums from this time period. Lady Stardust, that's a cool song, has an electric piano intro, but it's almost like a kind of like a haunting tone. Maybe something reminding me of like you know, like an intro to like an Alice Cooper song. But the song kicks in. It's a very theatrical, soft rock song. Has a memorable chorus. Song's about an androgynous man who is very ahead of its time, and that's something that many people consider David Bowie to be. And it's also kind of like a humorous tribute to David Bowie's good friend Mark Bolan. He was from T-Rex. Star is a song that's kind of very like Beatles sounding again, has this piano driven rhythm. And the song talks about being a rock and roll star, includes some hard rock riffs. The song moves at a fast pace, has lots of energy. The song's not very long, but has some cool guitar riffs. Hang On To Yourself is a proto-punk song. It's very upbeat. Another one that reminds me of like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I think the more I listen to it, the more I think about how like the Rocky Horror Picture Show has actually taken a lot from this album, you know. The song has some really cool bass playing, some cool drums, and lots of energy. Ziggy Stardust, another memorable rock song. It's a hard rock style guitar, some cool drum beats. This is another song with a very like a theatrical sound. Bowie has a great vocal performance with a lot of variety in the style. It's also like an early type of power ballad. It has like the softer verse section and the heavier power chords in the chorus. Suffragette City. This is a song I remember from when I was younger because I remember that I used to buy these guitar magazines, and this is one of the songs that was featured in the issue. Another proto-punk song. It's just high energy, has guitar chords, hard driving rock and roll piano and horn sections, and a very memorable guitar solo. The final song of the album is Rock and Roll Suicide. And it's an acoustic rock song with David Bowie singing along with the strumming guitars and acoustic guitar. And this is a song that kind of like slowly builds up because the band comes in about halfway through, then they incorporate the drums and the bass, some horn sections. You know, David Bowie, he kind of like adapts his vocals to the style of the song as it evolves. He gives a really theatrical and emotional performance. And it does have like a very big sound, you know. It's really cool how it goes from like simple to complex, and it's only like a 3-minute song. So it's a very interesting album. You know, I think it did set the stage for a lot of other bands that would come out after this. You know, I know I mentioned the Rocky Horror Picture Show a couple times, but I could see how this influenced like 70s punk rock, and then specifically songs like Hang On To Yourself and Suffragette City. And then I could also think of bands like Coldplay and Radiohead, you know, drawing a lot of inspiration from this. And definitely one of his best albums. It's classic. Celebrating 50 years. Let me know what you think in the comments. And my next video will be another 50-year celebration of School's Out by Alice Cooper. Please remember, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.